herpetologist. Herpetologists study amphibians and reptiles. It's kind of ironic because amphibians and reptiles are really no more closely related than amphibians and mammals. They kind of got grouped together 150 years ago because they were these kind of slimy critters that lived in swamps, and who would want to study these things? It wasn't until I was, I don't know, 17 or so, my parents allowed me to get a boa constrictor as a pet, and then I bought a couple of books. And then I kind of came to feel like, well, maybe amphibians are a little cooler than reptiles after doing some reading. And so it was kind of at that point that I became hooked. Much of the work that I do is for private companies. When the state of Ohio tells them, for example, if a company's putting in a new gas pipeline, before they can do anything like that, they have to make sure that they're not going to have an impact on any archaeological sites. They have to make sure they're not having any impact on threatened or endangered species. So when they submit their plans, if it's going through an area that has historic records of a species of amphibian or reptile that is endangered or threatened, then the state or the federal government will inform them that they have to have a habitat evaluation done. The spring house that we visited today, I was introduced to the owners of that place probably 8 or 10 years ago. And in 2014, when the oil spill occurred, I knew that there was going to have to be some kind of remediation. The company that owned the pipeline that broke was going to have to pay some retribution in some way, shape, or form for the damage they had done to the cave salamander population at Oak Glen Nature Preserve, where the oil spill occurred. I wrote a proposal to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to do some demographics studies at that spring house. So I completed the work at the spring house 2 years before I was asked. And when the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency contacted me and said, do you have any ideas where we might be able to pursue some property where it would serve as mitigation for the losses at this nature preserve? My answer was, do I have the place for you? When I did the Springhouse study, the goal was to do mark recapture studies and estimate what the population was. During that study, I think I had one day where it was like maybe 271 individuals, and it was quite clear that I wasn't going to be able to do mark recapture. It is very possibly the most dense population of this species across its entire range. And here we are in Southwest Ohio. There are no caves, but there are cave salamanders because if there are fissures between the rock layers, they'll kind of shimmy in between those. But the spring house is essentially a man-made cave. Understand that amphibians exchange their gases through their skin. They all absorb oxygen through their skin and release carbon dioxide through their skin. So one of the things that I encourage people not to do is to pick up amphibians. The best thing to do is kind of watch and admire them.